All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Christopher Luck. I'm the IBPA Director of Membership and Member Services, and this is the Get to Know Your IBPA Member Benefits webinar series. We do this because we want to make sure people understand all the benefits, and also some of our benefits are kind of complex and have a lot of cool parts to them. So Kirkus Reviews, for example, has 3 different benefits, and we want to make sure you understand them. So today, I'm very happy to introduce our speaker, Kirkus Reviews publisher, promotions manager, Rachel Weiss. Hello, Rachel. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to disappear. But if you all have questions, again, make sure to put them in the chat, and make sure to put them in the Q&A, and then I will share them during the webinar. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Christopher. Hi, everyone. Like Christopher said, I'm the Publisher Promotions Manager at Kirkus. I am going to be your point of contact, but you might also hear from my colleague, Amy Baird. She does reach out to a lot of people. She works with our Kirkus ND team. So if you get a Kirkus ND review, you might hear from her, or you can reach out to me. We'll figure out the right person to send you to. But I'm really excited to talk to you today about Kirkus. So just as a little overview of what Kirkus is, we've been around for 90 years. We celebrated our 90th anniversary earlier this year. And we are an incredibly well-trusted review outlet for people across the book publishing industry. We started out with a real core of librarians and booksellers. That is really our bread and butter, especially when we talk about the print magazine. But we also have a lot of consumers on our website and through our digital platforms that come to us through search, through SEO. Kirkus reviews books so early that we're often one of the first sites that pop up when you Google a title. But also we've been around for so long. Our name is on covers of books everywhere with our review quotes. So we're very well known within the industry, and we're really excited to work with you. In terms of what kind of platforms we have across Kirkus, we have a completely updated website. I started here about a year ago, but my previous colleagues really had some foresight because they updated the website to be very consumer focused in February 2020, really fortuitous timing right there. We also have our print magazine, which we have redesigned to make it fun and fresh. Full color interior that only just launched this past month with our September 1st issue. So we're very, very excited about that new look. We also have a large following on social. We have about 68,000 subscribers to our email newsletters as of 9/19/2023. And we have a weekly podcast that goes out every single Tuesday. So a little bit of the stats here. So you can see what our reach is across all of these platforms. So we have about 15,000 people subscribed to our print magazine. The print magazine also is free for everyone digitally. So whether you are currently a subscriber or not, you can access the print magazine from our website. We have over 3 million average monthly page views. Our monthly website page views are up 45% year over year right now. This email newsletter subscriber number is a little bit out of date. So I said 68,000 as of when I checked this morning, and I forgot to update my PowerPoint. But we really have access to a lot of people, as you can see from this slide. The magazine and print readership does tend to skew a little bit more towards the librarian and bookseller side of things, also including some industry professionals, while the website and the digital outlets really do skew heavily consumer. So on our digital site, we're running at about an 80% consumer, 20% librarian bookseller industry split. So you can see the digital side is really over-indexing in the consumer marketplace. A little bit more about our audience. These consumers, especially when we're thinking about the digital side, tend to be pretty young. So around 50% of our audience is between the ages of 18 and 34. I always think this makes for an interesting thought experiment in terms of what kinds of books work well for us. So I'll get a little bit into genres in a second, but there is something about that 18 to 34 bracket that are both people looking for books for themselves, reading adult fiction, nonfiction, YA crossover, but they're also maybe starting to have kids or their friends are having kids. So also really like looking into that children's book side on the consumer side. And then when you get into our librarian audience, they're looking for everything, right? They're looking for collection development. So we do have a great mix of adult services librarians and children's services librarians, all in our print magazine and like librarian really audience base. So in terms of what works best on Kirkus, so these are our top genres that we can see from website views, like page views on the website. So fiction is really our bread and butter. I think we're often known as a place that really heavily features literary fiction, but you can see we also do a lot of nonfiction. Nonfiction is number 5 on this list. Teens, YA, children's, really high up there. You will find me often talking a little bit more about the children's side because I worked in children's publishing in school and library marketing for almost 10 years before this job. So I do tend to favor that side a little bit when I'm talking about things, but we have a really heavy interest in those categories. And then you get a little bit more into subgenres. So mystery and thriller, science fiction and fantasy, romance, all of this are like the top genres for us. And then when you look at some of the keywords, nonfiction is like a really big bucket. So many things can go into just general fiction and nonfiction. So we looked at the top 250 book review pages on the website from January to June of this year and pulled all the keyword data from those pages. So these are the keywords that really had multiple hits on them or coming up most frequently. So, in nonfiction, instead of just like anything nonfiction, we're thinking history, entertainment, current events. Biography and memoir is a huge one for us. On fiction, contemporary romance, you'll see like several different levels of the mystery and detective, like mystery and thriller genre in here. So thriller and suspense, mystery and detective, psychological thriller. I like to think about that because, mysteries and thrillers can really range from your like hard-boiled detective to like a fun Regency cozy mystery. So we do span that whole category. We also do a lot of historical fiction, dystopian fiction. Again, romance is on here twice. So this is just a little bit of what we're seeing people being drawn to from the website. Oh, and these are listed in no particular order. The first one was like listed 1 through 10 in order of most to least popular. These are just any random order that I put them in. I have no explanation for my thought there. Then we did the same thing looking at teen and YA keywords. So this is a little bit smaller just because, like I said, fiction and adult literary fiction really take over the top review pages. But on teens and YAs, we're seeing romance, science fiction and fantasy, mystery and thriller, a lot of things that you're also seeing in the adult fiction keywords. And then in children's, graphic novels and comics are really big for us, science fiction and fantasy, talking about family, animal stories, that kind of thing. So to get into some of the member benefits, the first one I wanted to talk about was our Kirkus Indie Review Program. So we have a review program that IBPA members get 50% off of traditional and expanded reviews through this program. So these will guarantee you a review. We can't guarantee whether it's positive or not, but you can, after you receive the review, decide whether you want to publish it or not. So it gives you a lot of control over your review. And it's just because Kirkus is so well known within the industry, it is a really great place to start when you're thinking about marketing your books. We have such heavy name recognition that a review from Kirkus does go a long way. It's something that you can use in all of your promotional materials going forward. It's something that, coming from the school and library marketing side at Penguin Random House, having a Kirkus review, having a positive review, having a starred review always really was a selling point for us. And it also automatically brings your title up for librarians. I mean, my focus was schools and libraries, so that's what I always think of first. But a starred review from Kirkus really does increase movement with your titles. So we have a couple different options here, a traditional review, an expanded review, and specifically a children's review. So these are really, really wonderful opportunities with the member discount. We also have expedited options too. If you're coming up against a deadline and you really want that review within, I believe it's 5 to 6 weeks for an expedited review, we can make that happen as well.
And people have some questions about the reviews. Can I ask them?
Hit me up. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, one thing to point out, I know you mentioned the picture book here,
Yes.
but a $50 discount does not apply to the picture books, correct?
Yeah, we've already priced that one as low as we possibly can.
Okay. And then, by the way, you said 50%, so I'm holding you to it.
That was a
We haven't
mistake.
recorded.
Christopher, don't do that. I brought it back.
Okay, so we have
Don't
some
get me in trouble with my boss.
people. People are asking, let's say a book already launched. Is it worthwhile still getting a Kirkus review?
Yeah, definitely. I think that you can use it all the time. Like, you're gonna be promoting your book, hopefully not just before it goes on pub, right? But also because we have this really large consumer outlet, they are looking at books that are already on sale. So I do think that timing is much more flexible when you look strictly at a consumer audience, because they're looking at things much more like, what can I buy right now? And so if your book is already on sale, they can obviously already buy it. Whereas when I talk a little bit more about librarians, I do encourage people to submit it before on sale, just because librarians are looking to order ahead for collection development. But yeah, I think it's definitely worth it if your book is already out there to get that blurb.
Yeah, and to that point, libraries, bookstores, a lot of times won't carry a book unless it's been vetted by a company like Kirkus Reviews. They're familiar with, they trust, and so it's actually a benefit that you can get your review still after a book is published, because there are other trade publications that do not allow, they don't give you a review after the book's published. It just isn't possible. So that's what's helpful about a review like Kirkus. So other people are wondering then, who are the people reviewing the books? Who are these reviewers?
Yeah, so we have a really large group of reviewers that we work with. So a lot of them are journalists. We have a lot of librarians. We have fellow authors. So our review editors have great relationships with all of these people, and they try to match up your book with the best reviewer possible. So if it's a children's book, they will go to a librarian who is specifically a children's librarian specializing within that age range, right? Or if it is a a book about queer identities, they will try to match you up with a reviewer who has a specialty and an interest in that subject matter. So we really do try to match everyone up to like the most perfect fit and really like set you up like this person loves fantasy, and so therefore we're going to give them fantasy reviews. All of our reviewers do remain anonymous, but we try our best to match you up on the back end.
And you mentioned how if someone gets a negative review, it's helpful that they don't have to make it public.
Mhm.
But one question about that is if they get like a negative review, is there a time when they might still want it to be public? Is it still beneficial because maybe the whole review is not negative, or should they just always make it, hide it?
Yeah, I think it totally depends on you. There are going to be times where it's entirely negative. There are going to be times where there's just like one negative sentence, but you can pull something else out of it, in which case I like the big publishers that I used to work for would get negative reviews all the time, but we'd pull like that one little bit that, it's not a star. It's maybe not like the most glowing review, but it does say something interesting about the book and sets it apart. So I think there are definitely times when you do want to publish something that maybe isn't like the most glowing thing. Obviously, we hope that everybody gets amazing reviews, but we can't guarantee it. We try to be as honest as humanly possible.
Which is why it works,
Exactly.
because if there are companies out there where you can buy a review and it'll be positive, but they're not as trusted because the whole point is that they know a company like Kirkus is like, hey, we didn't love this, sorry. If somebody gets a negative review, can they submit their book again and hopefully maybe get a different review, or can they only submit it once?
That's actually a great question that I don't know the answer to. I will look that up and loop back.
I set you up there. So
Oh, okay.
I asked once before and I was told that you cannot
Okay,
submit a
great.
book more than once. Another question is see how it says traditional reviews and expanded review. They're
Yep.
just, some people are wondering, I know it says 250 words for a traditional review and 500 words for an expanded review. Any more detail about the difference between the two and why someone might want one instead of the other?
Yeah, I mean, the more words, the more opportunities you have for a pull quote is like my first thought on the matter. But yeah, I think especially if it is really complex subject matter, you might want to go more towards an expanded review than a traditional review, because the reviewers and the editors are really working within that word count in order to like be able to promote it within our templates on web, in the magazine. So the difference, I think, like what I would go for an expanded review is something that has a lot of different topics in it where you want to delve a little bit more into each one instead of more of like a cursory like overview of what the book is about. And again, to have that more opportunities for things to pull from the review.
I know you have a whole other section about advertising. People just have a few more questions about reviews. Thank you
Yeah, let's do it.
for answering them. So some people are having questions about, how you listed the best categories. So some
Sure.
people are saying, oh, I have a book that's a poetry book, or I have a book that's Christian nonfiction. It's not listed in your section there. Is it still worthwhile to get a review? They're just kind of wondering if they, if they're not part of that list, if it's still should get one.
Yeah, I definitely think you, Christopher, I'm never going to say don't get a Kirkus.
I
I'm going to
feel
be
like
honest
don't
with
give
you
us
there.
money.
Yeah, that's literally not what my job is.
Yeah.
But yes, I think that even if it's not one of the top genres on our website, that doesn't mean that people aren't looking for the title. It doesn't mean that the review isn't going to come up in search. It just means that maybe there's slightly less interest in the audience, but you can use that review in other ways without just targeting the people who are coming onto our website. So you are still going to be able to use the pull quotes in any advertising, whether that's with us or with other outlets or just on Twitter or Facebook, whatever Twitter is called now. So yes, I think that obviously everyone should get a Kirkus review, but I do think that it is worthwhile whether you're part of that list or not.
Yeah, and also, I know that your job is to sell. So
Yeah.
one thing I'll say is, think about your audience, right?
Yeah.
So, in terms of buying books, like consumers, for example, they will go to a website online to buy a book, and other reviews, consumer reviews, are incredibly important to them. They want to see that an average reader likes a book just like them, and it feels like, okay, these are just other random, these are people, right? So I would say, like, with trade reviews, really the target audience and the most important audience in terms of people that really are like, this is what they're absolutely looking for, are those booksellers, retail stores, librarians, like those companies that you're trying to get your book into that sell to consumers. So keep that in mind in terms of who the audience is that you're really trying to sell to. Again, a librarian, a bookstore, those places very well may not carry your book if it doesn't have a trade review. Whereas your average reader, they will see a Kirkus review or they will see another trade review and go, wow, this looks good. But also the consumer reviews are very important to them. So, if you don't have the money right now, you may also just consider, okay, well, focusing on consumer reviews. So not to get people not to do Kirkus.
Christopher, what are you doing?
Give a more expanded view of that. And one last thing about reviews, in terms of stars. So people are wondering, like, well, what's the rating? Like, how many stars is it? 2 stars, 4 stars? Like, what's the full rating? And then in terms of the what warrants a starred review, people are wondering about that rating system.
Yeah. So our stars, you just get 1 star from Kirkus. So every title that doesn't get a star, and then there's the starred reviews, right? So you can bulk up like multiple starred reviews if you get stars from multiple outlets. So you get a PW and a Kirkus and a library journal star, and then you'd like have 3 starred reviews, right? So the criteria is really like literary merit. We usually, I think we give stars to about 10% of the titles that we review, and we review about 8,000 a year. So it is a like an exclusive number. So it's really, really exciting when you get that star. But yeah, I don't know if we have like a specific, like, if you check off these 12 things, you will get a star. But the reviewers who are reviewing it are definitely looking for that. They are looking to recommend books to be starred. Our editors are taking a hard look at it to see like how the book is being received in the landscape. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. But it's really exciting when it happens.
Yeah, and also with the reviews, people should know, because a trade publication like Kirkus is focusing a lot on these companies like libraries and bookstores. Sometimes people will get a review and they don't realize how much of the review is also a description of the story. They're looking for like a glowing, like, this is the best book ever, I love it, right? But part of the reason libraries and bookstores and such love these reviews is because it tells you what the book is, right? And there is a portion of the review that is like the opinion, but that's why, like, consumer reviews, it's probably, those are the more glowing in terms of like, this is the, I love this book, my favorite book. And so just keep that in mind when you get the review. Don't be surprised that it's not only just opinion, it's literally the synopsis of the book.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, a librarian and bookseller can't read every single book that they're stocking in their library or adding into their collections. So that's where Kirkus and other trade reviewers really come in. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to make sure you have time for this next portion. There are other questions, but I'll get to them at the end. Awesome.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. So in terms of advertising that we do offer, so we have website advertising. We get an average of 900,000 users visiting our website every month. So we do have display advertising on the website that we offer. We have advertising within our newsletters. So all of the things that I'm talking about now are like a la carte advertising that you can buy one of. You could buy a bundle of 6. There are other options. If you talk to my other coworker, Amy, she usually has like bundled deals and things like that. But these are like, here is one ad that you can do that is really, really effective. So for our email newsletters, those all go out to 68,000 subscribers. Every single week, we have one newsletter on Tuesdays and one on Thursdays. The Tuesday newsletter is our critics picks, and it is really focusing on what the bestsellers are this week and whether you should buy them or not. So that one has a higher click-through rate when we are looking at the like statistics coming out of the newsletter, just because we've trained our subscribers to click on every single book title, right? And see what our verdict is. Then on the Inside Scoop newsletter, which goes out on Thursdays, that's where we promote a lot of our editorial content. So any author interviews that we're doing, book lists that our editors create, news stories about the newest Prince Harry book that's coming. So that click-through rate tends to be a little bit lower because people are clicking on one article and then getting stuck on our site. So we're still keeping them within like the Kirkus atmosphere, but the 2 newsletters have slightly different goals to them. But we do have advertising options within each newsletter every single week. Another thing that we offer is dedicated e-blasts. So these go out to that same list of 68,000 subscribers. I personally love the dedicated e-blasts. When I was an ad buyer at Penguin, this is probably what I bought most of from Kirkus. I love them because of the amount of space. You can really talk up your title. You can really like pull out that review quote and just get a lot of cover impressions. These have really high open rates around that 30% mark, pretty decent click-throughs. They're smaller than the newsletter click-throughs, but that's because there's only one link to click. So again, just like slightly different goals coming out of each of these newsletters, which deliver slightly different stats for each opportunity. Then we have our print magazine, which we have completely redesigned within this last month. Here you can see the cover of our 9/1 issue. So our magazine used to be entirely black and white. It was really focused on reviews and being a place for collection development for librarians and booksellers. So with this new redesign, we really intentionally thought about what a consumer might want while also serving that legacy librarian and bookseller audience. So we're trying to hit everybody with the magazine now versus having this slightly more segmented audience that we've had in the past. So within our magazine, we have a fiction, nonfiction, children's, YA, and ND section. We can place your ad in any of those sections. So if you have a nonfiction book, we would definitely want to put that within the nonfiction section. So that way, when a librarian is flipping through reviews for collection development, your cover is right there because they're like intentionally looking at that category for a reason. We also have added in a lot of new pieces into the magazine to make it more interesting to consumers. So we are adding in features on our podcast. We are adding in some of our editorial content that didn't used to go in there. So book to screen information, all sorts of stuff that work really well for the consumers digitally. We're pulling into the print magazine as both like a work smarter, not harder. Like, let's use all of the things that we're creating for the website and put it into the print magazine. But also because we know consumers are interested in those things, we're pulling them into print to make the magazine even more enticing for consumers. And one thing I will say, obviously this webinar recording will live on for a long time, but especially right now this fall, fall 2023, just to timestamp that. We are putting a lot of our own money into promoting this print magazine and getting people onto our website in order to subscribe to the print magazine. So we are seeing a lot of elevated stats right now because of the marketing efforts that we're putting in, which is only going to like lift your marketing efforts as well, because we're pulling in even more consumers than we would if we were just like letting everything go as it normally is. Now we're like putting a lot of money behind it to pull people in, and that's only going to increase the number of impressions that we can deliver for you and for your titles. We also are doing a cooperative ad program. So this is just an example of one that already exists within Kirkus, but we will, if we get enough interest, have an IBPA version of this. So we will have interior and back cover cooperative ads. It cuts down on the cost for you, right? So your title will be featured among a selection of other IBPA members who sign up for it. We'll have the covers, the title, author, a one-liner, whether that is a piece from a review or just a one-line description, featured within the magazine, either on the back cover or within sections. So we're really excited to provide this as an opportunity. Again, slightly lower cost, but still really high impact with that IBPA stamp to it. And then I just wanted to shout out a couple like best practices. Again, I was in advertising for 10 years before this job. I do like to say everything that I talk about with this job, I either bought when I was an ad buyer or I created when I came here. So ask me any questions. But in terms of advertising copy, we obviously recommend, if you have a Kirkus review, use a pull quote from that. That'll really like double down on it. If you don't, I tend to recommend having a descriptive one-liner versus a reader review. So I think especially thinking about the audience who are looking at any sort of advertising, it's so great to say like, this is the best book ever, but it doesn't give you context for what that title is actually about. So using that descriptive one-liner and as a replacement, if you don't have a review, is usually what I steer people towards. In terms of design, I know not everyone has their own personal designer or has the ability to create their own ads themselves. We have a designer on our staff who will work with you to create your advertising materials across digital and print. And with the cooperative advertising program, I love it because it's super low lift on your part. You just send me your one-liner and your high resolution cover image, and then we put it all together for you. So it doesn't require design chops. I think that's always a good benefit too. Yeah, and then that's pretty much it. Then I have our specs and our rates. We do give discounts to IBPA members. So on here, you'll see our typical rates for an average publishing house that is not an IBPA member, and then you have the IBPA member rates. So definitely take advantage of those. I would recommend whenever you're reaching out to me or if you're in contact with any of my coworkers, just keep reiterating that you're an IBPA member so we make sure that you get those discounts. It's sometimes hard for us to keep track. So just definitely be like, MPS, Rach, like, I am an IBPA member. I better be getting that discount, and I will make sure that happens. Yeah. And then here's my contact information. That's kind of what I had.
Thank you. Yeah. So first of all, thanks for all that information. We definitely have some other questions for some clarity. So I want to make sure to ask those. When it comes to, remember how you mentioned that you all help with the design. What about like the copy of the ad? Do you all give any feedback, editorial feedback on, oh, this is, good copy for the ad, or is that left up to the publisher?
Yeah, I think we definitely do give feedback. We tend to have like a kind of a template of what we recommend. So, book cover and then the quote or the one-liner with like buy a copy now or on sale now CTAs for a digital ad. For print, we'll have like contact, here's the email to contact if you are interested in purchasing this title for publication, that kind of thing. So we definitely have advice on what to put into all of our ads.
Right. And then just so everyone knows, if you're going to be selling to the library and the retail stores and booksellers, you're going to want to have national distribution to make sure that they can buy it. So like Rachel was just saying, they're going to have accounts with, let's say, like Ingram and places like that. So make sure your book is available already, so that you're setting yourself up for success. They're probably not going to want to buy the book directly from the publisher. They're going to want to go to their Ingram account. So you want to have it, through Ingram Spark if you're like an author publisher or a small independent publisher. But just to help y'all out. So
yeah,
oh.
I would just add to that if you don't have that distribution, then also like the digital ads where we can send them directly to Amazon through a URL is also great, especially like on the consumer end. They're going to want to click on the ad and be led directly to a site where they can buy. Whereas, a librarian is going to write down the title to add to their Ingram or Baker and Taylor list. So just a thought that like sometimes you can go more digitally and send them directly to a buy point, whereas with a librarian, maybe in the print magazine, it's like make sure you have that distribution because they're going to take that list and take it to their wholesaler ad rep.
So people are wondering if someone gets an ad, with you all. Let's say they want to know, like, well, first of all, if the review, do they know when the review is going to show up? Like, do you all email them and say it's going to be in the August issue of Kirkus Reviews?
Yeah, so with our indie review program, not every review makes it into the print magazine just due to the amount of space within the print magazine. So our editors do make the call on like, here are the very best reviews of this like 2-week period, and these are the ones that are going to go into the issue. But yes, you will be able to like publish the review online, and then you will get notified if your book is going to be within the actual print magazine as well.
And people are wondering if then they know the issue, should they put an ad in addition to the review, like in that particular issue? Is that good, or should they wait for another issue to kind of hit the audience again?
That's a great question. I kind of think that it depends on the timing of it, right? So if you already have the book out and you're getting the review, I would maybe do it in that same issue. Maybe for the Kirkus Indie, it will appear in the Indie review section of the magazine. So maybe then run the ad in the fiction or nonfiction or children's category, like sections of the magazine. So that way you do get that double hit. But I do think that a lot of times if you have the review before the book goes on sale, then I love to do another hit once it is on sale to be like, you saw this before, here's your repeat impression. And there's the old like marketing adage that you have to see something 7 times before it makes like a real impression on you. So like have that review be the very first one a couple months before it goes out, and then double down when you get to on sale.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah, and then someone's asking, they said they got a positive review, and then Kirkus on their site had a buy it button under awards and accolades, and they're wondering if that was like, what is that? How is that related to the review? Is that the ad that they might be buying, or they weren't quite sure about that?
Yeah, so we added buy buttons within like the last month or two onto the website. It used to be when you went onto the review page, you had to know to click on the title, and then that would lead you to like an Amazon. So I think what you're mentioning is underneath the cover. Now we have a buy it button that will then give you the options to buy from Amazon Bookshop or Barnes and Noble if you have if all of those places exist for you. So that button now goes to like, buy this book. You just read the review. Now make sure that you buy the book.
Awesome, thank you. And by the way, someone's saying that their Kirkus review helped with library sales, so that's cool.
Love to hear that.
There you go. And they're wondering if you can give any tips about what's the best way to leverage if they get a positive Kirkus review. Obviously, they can advertise through y'all, but what are other ways they can leverage their review to get the most out of it?
Yeah, I think definitely you like find the best pull quote, and I would keep it relatively short. That's always like a recommendation that I have. Like, you want to be able to scan it quickly if you're a consumer, right? So like if there are maybe like 5 words that you can pull out, like a short phrase, or if it's just like quote, excellent, that kind of thing. I would keep the pull quote as short as possible, and then I would put it everywhere. So I would, if you can update your cover image with like a pull quote on the front of it, I would do that. I would create social assets and put it on your own social media accounts. Yeah, I would plaster it everywhere. If you can add it to the Amazon book page, definitely do that. Just use it as many times as humanly possible.
Yeah, and so everyone knows in the chat, I put the links to all 3 of these member benefits. So you can find those links. I'm going to be emailing this recording to everyone, and also I'll be sending y'all the links in that email as well. So about your site, I know you talked about it. I don't know if you have any more stats. People are just wondering in terms of visitors to the site and maybe also the magazine. Is it primarily booksellers, consumers? They're just wondering if you have any more stats about that.
Yeah, the way that I think about our audience is the librarians are pretty consistent across all platforms. So the 15,000 people who are subscribed to our print magazine are mostly librarians and booksellers, and you can see like when you go into the breakdowns of audience on our email newsletter list and on the website, that stays relatively consistent across all of our different platforms. So like the librarians, you're going to hit no matter where you're advertising with us or whatever part of the site that you're on. It's really this big bucket of consumers, and we're trying to change that, right? We're trying to pull the consumers into the newsletter and into the print magazine, but they do start petering off a little bit as you get into the higher barriers of entry of like submitting your email address, paying for a subscription. So always know that you're going to hit a librarian and bookseller no matter what you're doing. It's just that the consumers are more heavily concentrated on the digital side due to SEO and like search terms coming up, where it's often, the publisher, Amazon, Kirkus.
People are wondering about the timing of the Kirkus review. They're wondering, are there best times of the year to publish then get a review, or if it's kind of, is it based on their publication date? Like they're kind of wondering when they should get a review, basically.
Yeah, I would definitely do it based on publication date versus like a Kirkus editorial calendar or anything like that. I think that there are different opportunities throughout the year that you could re-promote a review that would work well. Like we're going to be doing a holiday gift guide in our 12/1 edition. So that's always a great spot to re-promote a title that you already have a review for. But I would really like time the reviews to be around publication. So what we do with the traditional like big 5 publishers is we try to publish the review 2 months in advance for that librarian and bookseller collection development timeline. So if you can do it 2 months in advance, that would be great. That would really serve those librarians and booksellers. And then you can take it and re-promote for a consumer audience closer to the date where it is like you can buy this now versus pre-ordering it. And then surprise, it shows up at your doorstep 3 months later. But yeah, I think there's opportunities to get a review and promote it after pub, but if you can, just specifically for that librarian and bookseller audience, around 2 months before, like to have the review published 2 months before. So then add in like another month and a half-ish for the review to be written. That is maybe the best in order just to like hit every single audience.
And in terms of the reviews, so the indie review, can you talk about how independent publishers can submit for a free review, right? But then there's after the book's published, if they have to then pay, like, and then there's author publishers. So can you just talk about like who's applying for the free one versus the paid review?
Yeah. So the way that we divide up the indie reviews versus like the traditional reviews is really based on distribution. So what we want is for a librarian, if they're looking at like our traditional review program, to be able to order that title really easily through Ingram, Baker and Taylor, that kind of thing, just to like really serve the audience that we have there. So if you do have national distribution, then you would qualify for a traditional review. We're not going to be able to review everything. So the editors try to review as much as possible. Sometimes it's a timing thing where they get the book for review after they've already assigned that publishing month, or there's just there's so many books being published these days that sometimes there are just times where they can't review every single title that's coming out within a month. So that's when, if you do qualify for the traditional reviews, and you want a review, then we would send you over to the indie side to be like, we're sorry, we weren't able to cover your title within this traditional review program. Here is another review program that you can pay for.
Okay. And then someone was asking, are authors required to pay extra for advertising? I mean, I believe the advertising is done. It's just, across the board, like IBPA members will get a specific discount. And then regardless if you're the publisher, author, whatever, it's the rates are the same, or you let us know.
Yeah, the rates are the same. Just let us know that you're an IBPA member and we will give you the rates that are on the card.
Okay. And so then people are wondering about then that picture book. One question is, and just so you all know, definitely go to the Kirkus site in terms of requirements, because someone was saying, oh, how should they submit their picture book, PDF, EPUB, MOBI file? So we can answer some of these questions here, but always read the whole website to see all the requirements, because we don't have time to go through every single one. And I want to make sure, and also sometimes they change, and just make sure you're reading the site. But anyway, people are wondering, what, like for something like a picture book, what's the best file to upload?
I think PDF is usually what we go for, but the exact requirements will be on the site.
Okay, great. And then people are wondering then the turnaround time for the reviews. I know you kind of showed that earlier, but how long, if they submit it today, how long before they might get the review back?
Yeah, so for the normal not expedited reviews, it is typically between 7 and 8 weeks. And then the expedited reviews, I believe, is between 5 and 6 weeks, but don't quote me on that one entirely. But yeah, so around 2 months is what we're working with.
And for the picture book, some people were wondering, they have a book, right? But it has like a lot of pictures in it, but it's not necessarily like a children's book.
Okay.
So they're just wondering, like, how do you know which one to submit to? Like, what qualifies as a picture book versus like a novel or whatever, a book that has pictures in it?
Yeah, I would definitely just consult with the website. But I would say if you have like a heavily illustrated fiction book, then I would go with the traditional, um, what is that exact thing that we call it? Traditional review. So a picture book, if I were to define it without like looking at what it actually says on the site, I would say it is a children's book, usually around 32 pages. So I think that is really like the page count is definitely going to factor into whether your heavily illustrated book is a like traditional review option or a picture book review option.
And then in your print magazine and on your website, like there are sometimes like author interviews and things like that.
Mhm.
How people are wondering, how do they get that? Is that related to they got a great review and then you reached out? Like how, or can they pay for those? Like how do they get like those spotlights?
Yeah, so I believe those are paid spots, typically. So our editors do select one author per category to do a like Q&A with, that runs within the print magazine, and that comes entirely from our editorial staff. But we do have paid options. Those I don't work with super often. My colleague Amy does. But she definitely has that as an option to do a Q&A and profile that would be featured. I don't think those go into the print magazine, but they are online. They'll live on the Kirkus Reviews website forever. And they, I believe they get newsletter promotion as well. So you kind of hit multiple buckets with that.
And if someone gets like a review and then it ends up in the magazine, I'm assuming you all don't send them a copy of that magazine. They're going to have to go out and get that. So they have a physical copy, or how does that work?
That's a really good question that I don't know the answer to. I will find out. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know if we send them out. I know that we have the digital magazine available for everyone, so you can download a PDF version of it, but I'm not sure about the actual print copies. So I'll find out about that.
Yeah. And by the way, we should mention, your expertise is all the advertising. So all these
Yeah,
questions about the reviews, you are, it's amazing. Like you're doing
I'm
like,
doing
I
my
really,
best.
like I really commend, I feel like we're like putting like cola and fire under your feet. And we're like, let's see what you can answer. So anyway, thank you for answering all those questions about the reviews.
Of course. Yeah, I'm happy to. I also like when I started out in publishing as a little baby assistant, I submitted all of my titles for review with Kirkus. So I've had a long history with Kirkus. So I know a little bit about the review side, but it's from the opposite side of things and also 10 years ago. So
Okay.
I'm doing
Yeah.
my best.
Yeah, and also anyone can always, reach out to Kirkus directly to ask some of these questions as well. Since you specialize on the advertising, anything else you want to add about the advertising in terms of, like you were mentioning about timing, so people should, can wait, try to do it in advance so people know the book's coming out. But is there anything like for people who have their books have already been published? Any
Mhm.
tips about like an ad so that people still would want to buy the book regardless of when it came out? Is anything they might want to include? Do they need to make it clear the book's already came out, or anything along those lines?
Yeah, I don't think you need to be like, this book came out 3 years ago or anything like that. I think you can just have like an on sale now call to action kind of thing. I would say that again, thinking about the audience is really like my biggest advice when you're thinking about the different advertising options. So a librarian might be like, oh well, that is past the time that I'm looking for collection development. So maybe look more at the digital side and really think about what that call to action is within every advertisement. So digitally, you want it linking to your Amazon page, and that will, your big button should say buy now, or pre-order now if you're doing it like slightly before publication. Whereas my go-to when I was in school and library marketing was always learn more about this title versus a purchase because you don't want to lead people to a wholesaler that they're not working with. So I would just, anytime that you are thinking about advertising, I would start with what is the audience that you're looking for, and then tailor the ad to that audience.
Awesome. Well, Rachel, this has been very informative. Really appreciate it. Again, well, I'm going to be emailing everyone about all the details. But for people watching this video a year from now, thank you for watching. We appreciate it. And we hope you take advantage of this benefit. And thanks again, Rachel.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was so nice to talk to you all. And thank you so much for all of the questions.